time now to talk with our executive coach, Harold Hillman, who's going to talk to us about today what it means to be present. Good morning to you, Harold. How are you? Long time no chat.
I know, Carly. Good morning to you. It's wonderful to hear your lovely voice this morning.
Well, I am fully focused on what you're going to tell me about being present. I'm not going to think about my next guests. I'm not going to think about my previous guests or what we're having for dinner tonight, because that's what being present's all about, right?
That is a big part of it. It is a big part of it. It is being here and now. I'm drawn to some compelling stats from an Australian firm called Atlassian that focuses on maximizing productivity for high-performing teams. Here are a couple of stats, Carly. At your typical on-site work location in open space, you are likely to be interrupted on an average of 56 times a day, which takes you roughly 3 minutes or so to get back into focus. And across a given week, you lose roughly 1 day of productivity in the grand experiment that we call open space. And then add on top of that emails. On average, you receive 304 business-related emails each week, and you're likely to check your emails every 2 minutes. Across a given day, that amounts to roughly 2 hours where your focus is diluted. So there is something about being present in the moment with another person.
Oh, absolutely. And I fall into these traps all the time, and I get my weekly screen report on my phone, and it'll say it's up this week, you've been online 4 hours a day. I'm like, oh my goodness. And that would pretty much be just me sort of scrolling and looking for that email. And then sometimes I catch myself thinking, well, what am I expecting? I'm not waiting for an email. What am I hoping is going to come through to my inbox?
That's right. A part of being present is catching yourself in those moments where you divert your focus and check your email or pick up your phone to see if someone has sent you a message. So a big part of presence is a discipline related to four dimensions. The first one is about being here in the moment now, and you mentioned that in your intro, which was sometimes, even though we're sitting with another person, we are at the meeting that we just came from. And that person can feel it when you're there, and they can sense that you're not really present because you're either at the meeting that you just came from or you're at the meeting that you're about to go to.
Absolutely. So how do you make space and be present and remind yourself that, while you're here, I'm talking to you, Harold, I'm not thinking about our political panel after 11 a.m. this morning,
That's right. There is a big part of it is about just making space and decluttering your mind. There is sometimes we look at multitasking as being a strength, something that we admire in people, but research has shown that our brains are not nearly as good at handling multiple tasks as we think they are. In fact, some researchers point out that multitasking can actually reduce productivity by 40%, particularly when the person is under pressure and fatigue sets in. So there is this component around making space and decluttering your mind to just be fully present with another person, pacing your energy, making space in your day for your psyche to breathe a bit.
And I imagine you would experience less brain fog and less frazzledness and maybe potentially being less tired because your brain is actually taking that break to just focus on the one thing.
Absolutely. In the typical workday, people go from meeting to meeting to meeting. Lots of meetings in a given day where you don't allow yourself to let go from the previous meeting before you walk in to the next one. So there is something about getting up from your desk, going downstairs, walking outside, breathing a little bit. I call it allowing your psyche to breathe, where you give yourself a little bit of room just to absorb the here and now. Go outside and really focus on the beautiful plants that you're walking by, or the laughter coming from people that are near you, to just again, detach from those things that are distracting you to enable yourself to be more present here and now.
I guess, too, when you're in a conversation with someone and you are truly listening, it's evident, right? It's a sign of respect.
It really is. It really is, Carly. There is something about, in being present, there is something around suspending judgment. Sometimes when we're in a conversation with another person, we are listening to refute. We aren't really listening to learn. There is a difference, and people can pick up on that if they're on the other side of you and you have your listening ears on, but you're listening to refute what they are saying as opposed to absorbing. And it's a different energy field, and a big part of being present is listen to the person to learn. Just absorb. You don't necessarily have to agree, but in the first instance, there is something about trying to understand where another person is coming from. Just trying to understand where they're coming from is a big part of being present with them.
My kids hold me accountable to being present. Even my 4-year-old this week said to me, Mum, and he'd been talking to me, yeah, yes, Freddie, what? Yes, Freddie, what? And he said, Mum, just look at me. And then he was prepared to have the discussion. So if my 4-year-old's picking up on it, I better listen.
You know what? That's a beautiful example there, and that is that a 4-year-old can sense when you are not fully there. Grown-ups can do the same. They feel the same way. So it's just before you walk into any meeting. Just spend 10 minutes before you go in the door to say, how do I need to be? How do I need to be in this meeting? How can I be fully present? What's the best way for me to have maximum impact with my influence in this meeting?
That is such great advice. Thank you so much, Harold. That's Harold Hillman, MD of Sigmund Curve Consulting. Spit it out, Carly. Not enough coffees this morning. Coming up